The last thing I ever thought I'd do on my 5th wedding anniversary was pack 2 suitcases and walk away from my life. Yet there I was, at 32, sitting on the edge of a motel bed in the navy button-down I'd ironed that morning. I stared at the wall, while the TV droned on about home renovations I couldn't care less about. The room carried a faint smell of bleach and regret. I wasn't supposed to be there. That night was meant to be perfect. I'd planned everything. A candlelit dinner at home, Brielle's favorite creamy mushroom fettuccine with truffle oil, and a bottle of red wine I'd hidden behind the cleaning supplies for more than 3 months. In my jacket pocket was an envelope with reservations for a secluded cabin in the Smokies. It was supposed to be a weekend away from deadlines, city noise, and everything else. Just Brielle and me. She was my wife, the woman I'd met during sophomore year at Ohio State. The woman who once said, "I felt like home." Then, 30 minutes into dinner, she lowered her wine glass, looked straight at me, and said the words that tore everything apart. "I want to sleep with someone else." That was it. No warning, no hesitation. She said it like she was suggesting a new recipe, or asking whether we should repaint the kitchen cabinets. At first I laughed because I honestly thought she was joking. Brielle didn't even blink. She was serious. "We've only ever been with each other," she said, adjusting her silver necklace. "I want to know what it's like. Just once." "You want to cheat on me on our anniversary?" "It isn't cheating if I tell you first," she replied with a faint smile. "It's honesty. Radical honesty. Isn't that what we promised each other?" I sat frozen as my fork slowly slipped from my fingers. Steam rose from the pasta and blurred my sight while my chest tightened by the second. "Who?" I finally asked. She paused. "His name is Reed. We work together. He's not just some random guy. There's chemistry between us." Something inside me broke right then, something deep and sacred. 5 years of marriage had suddenly been reduced to one night with another man. The cabin trip meant nothing now. The wine tasted bitter, and the lips I kissed every morning already felt like they belonged to somebody else. I left the table without a word. There was no yelling, no broken plates, and no scene. I simply walked outside. Brielle called after me, but I kept going. For more than an hour, I wandered through the neighborhood, shaking in the cold, early spring air and fighting the storm building inside me. The past 5 years kept replaying in my head. Her laughter in the kitchen, lazy Sundays on the couch, and promises whispered in the dark. How could anyone throw all that away for one night? When I came back, Brielle was curled up on the couch with her phone. A small frown crossed her face, as if she were the one who'd been hurt. "Did you think about it?" she asked softly. I stayed on my feet. "I did," I said, "and I can't accept it. If sleeping with someone else is what you need to feel alive, then maybe we're already finished." Her expression tightened. "You're overreacting. No, you're not taking this seriously enough." She blinked, clearly surprised I hadn't given in. "It's my body, Nolan. And it's my choice whether I stay with someone who thinks commitment is negotiable." Brielle didn't cry that night. She sulked, sent texts, poured another glass of wine, and muttered under her breath. I lay awake in the guest room until sunrise, staring at the ceiling. By morning, I'd made my decision. While Brielle showered, I quietly packed only what I needed to get by. I placed the cabin reservation on our bed and left a short note beside it. "Happy anniversary. Take whoever you want." I gently closed the door behind me, but the sound hit like an earthquake. Later that day, I shut off my phone. When I finally checked it the next morning, Brielle hadn't called or texted once. Instead, I had 36 missed calls from her older brother, Spencer, a hot-headed real estate lawyer who'd never thought I was good enough for his sister. His voicemails were anything but friendly. "You can't just disappear," Spencer snapped. "You want a war, Nolan?" "You've got one. She told me everything." I hadn't even been gone 24 hours. Sitting on the motel bed, I kept rereading Brielle's last message. "You're being ridiculous. Come home so we can talk like adults." The irony of her calling me immature wasn't lost on me. But I wasn't acting childish. For the first time, I was seeing things clearly. Still, the nightmare was only beginning. 3 days after I left, Brielle appeared, without warning, in the lobby of my extended stay motel. She wore heels far too high for the occasion, and held a travel mug like a prop in some courtroom drama. The moment she saw me near the front desk, she raised her voice so every employee could hear. "You can't just ghost your wife, Nolan." Everyone turned toward us. "I'm not ghosting you," I said coldly. "I'm separating from a woman who asked to sleep with another man as an anniversary gift." Her lips tightened in fake disbelief. "You're twisting what happened." Against my better judgment, I agreed to talk in the motel restaurant over coffee. Not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted to know whether any decency remained in her. There wasn't. "Reed was only an example," Brielle said, wrapping both hands around her cup. "I wasn't planning anything specific. I was just starting a conversation." "You gave me his name. You've been talking to him. That wasn't random." She shrugged. "Maybe I fantasized a little. That isn't a crime. I haven't slept with him, at least not yet." Brielle sighed and leaned closer. "Look, I've been seeing a therapist. She says exploring suppressed desires is healthy. It isn't cheating when both people consent." "But I didn't consent. You blindsided me after 5 faithful years." "You're being dramatic," she scoffed. "It's called ethical non-monogamy. You're acting like I murdered someone." I stared at her for several seconds. "You didn't commit murder. You betrayed me. Now you're hiding behind therapy buzzwords to excuse it." Tears filled her eyes, but they didn't seem real. She broke into loud, theatrical sobs, drawing the attention of the entire cafe. "You're so cold," she cried. "I'm still your wife." I didn't react. I slowly stood, and my chair scraped loudly against the floor. "If you leave now, don't ever come back," she shouted after me, her eyes red and voice shaking. I kept walking, without looking back. That night, Spencer sent me a formal email packed with legal jargon. He accused me of emotional abandonment and demanded compensation for Brielle's distress and therapy. They wanted 6 months of rent, counseling expenses, and a written apology. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Meredith Sloan, a no-nonsense divorce specialist. "Classic manipulation," she said over the phone. "Don't answer. Save and document everything." So I began collecting evidence. That was when the real insanity started. Brielle told our mutual friends I had suddenly snapped, disappeared without warning, and abandoned her with the rent, bills, and a broken heart. She also claimed I'd become controlling, distant, and emotionally abusive over the past few months. None of it was true. I was still funding our joint account and hadn't missed a single payment. But facts meant little in a battle over public perception. Then I received a message that stopped me cold. "Hey," wrote Kendra, one of Brielle's closest friends. "You and I need to talk. It's about her. Urgent." We met at a midtown coffee shop. Kendra arrived with a troubled look and her phone already unlocked. "She's been seeing Reed for 3 months," she said. "She told me you had an open marriage, and I believed her." I felt the blood drain from my face. "She even showed me messages that were supposedly from you," Kendra continued. "They said you were okay with it." But the tone felt strange. Kendra said. Robotic. Nothing like you. My throat tightened. She lowered her voice. When I questioned her, she got defensive and started claiming you were unstable. But I've known both of you for years. I knew something wasn't right. Then she handed me the screenshots. Brielle had forged the messages. She'd created an entire fake conversation. Even worse, she had already begun removing furniture from our apartment, telling people I had abandoned her. I rushed there to collect my belongings. Half the living room was empty. The hallway mirror was gone, and my bookshelves had been cleared. While I photographed everything for Meredith, the front door creaked open. Reed walked in, pushing a dolly. "Oh," he stammered. "Brielle said nobody would be here." "My name is Nolan," I snapped, "and this is still legally my home." He hesitated. "She told me you two had separated. She said you were okay with all of this." "Do I look okay?" Reed slowly backed toward the door. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." I said nothing. I was already calling Meredith. The following 48 hours felt like something from a psychological thriller. Meredith filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery. Kendra submitted a sworn affidavit along with the screenshots. Location records also proved I had never attended the fake conference where Brielle claimed I'd cheated. Piece by piece, the evidence exposed a hidden war she'd been building behind my back. Then Brielle's family called, suddenly sounding compassionate. "We had no idea," her father murmured. We believed her. Her mother was crying. "She told us you had grown distant. She said you cheated last year." I froze. I have never cheated on her. She claimed she had proof. It's fake, every bit of it. A long silence followed. Then her mother's voice cracked. "You know, she's done things like this before. She's always struggled with commitment. We thought marriage would change her." I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. The affair wasn't the only thing that hurt. It was how far Brielle was willing to go, fabricating messages, spreading lies, turning herself into the victim, and pulling everyone else into her mess. She didn't want freedom. She wanted destruction. Now it was my turn to take back control. But I wasn't going to yell or sink to her level. I would tear down every lie using facts, dignity, and quiet, calculated revenge. And that revenge was already in motion. I understood that peace wouldn't come freely. I had to fight for it, not with violence or anger, but with precision. Meredith moved fast. We sent a complete counteroffer, rejecting Spencer's ridiculous demands. It was a masterpiece of quiet warfare. An equal division of assets, no alimony, no fabricated emotional damages, and a clause requiring Brielle to admit to the affair in writing. Spencer exploded. He threatened lawsuits, made calls, and fired off angry emails. Meredith and I refused to move. We had evidence now. And Brielle was beginning to crack. The following week she appeared again. This time she didn't come to my motel or workplace. She went to my parents' house and interrupted their Sunday dinner. My mother opened the door and found Brielle standing there in a beige cardigan, with fake tears already prepared. "I'm worried about Nolan," she told my father. "He isn't well. He's pushing everyone away." My dad held the door firmly. "You need to leave." Before going, she handed them a letter. In it, she portrayed herself as the betrayed wife, abandoned without warning, emotionally discarded, and financially threatened. She claimed I'd suffered a breakdown, had become unstable, and that she feared for my safety. When I arrived later that evening, my mother was trembling. "She said you cheated." I didn't. "She said you hit rock bottom." I didn't. "She said you needed help." "I only need her out of my life. That's all." Then I showed them everything. The messages, photographs, and Kendra's sworn statement. It took 20 minutes to destroy the illusion Brielle had carefully built. When I finished, my father shook his head. We didn't raise our son to accept this kind of treatment. My mother stared silently at the wall. You were always too good for her. Meanwhile, Brielle's social life began falling apart. Her wounded wife's story didn't match the Instagram posts she had shared. There were champagne toasts with Reed, and late-night selfies tagged #NoRegrets and #MyTimeNow. Our mutual friends began distancing themselves from Brielle. Some even messaged me to apologize for believing her lies. But she didn't stop. She doubled down. Brielle told co-workers I had anger problems. She claimed I screamed, slammed doors, and threatened to leave her homeless. Every word was made up. Then Paige, a colleague who had once been friendly with both of us, contacted me. She's falling apart, Paige said. She told HR you emotionally abused her and destroyed her confidence. But everyone's confused because she keeps showing off Reed like he's some trophy. That same evening, Reed texted me. Hey man, I didn't know any of this. She said you were separated. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Instead, I forwarded the message to Meredith. It was another piece of evidence. Then came the mistake that changed everything. Desperate to paint me as controlling, Spencer anonymously emailed my boss with supposed concerns about my mental health, temper, and treatment of women. But my boss wasn't stupid. She recognized Spencer's writing style and, instead of believing him, forwarded the email to HR and then to me. The subject line read, "Just so you know what's happening." I stared at the screen for a full minute. I wasn't furious. I felt calm and completely in control. I sent it straight to Meredith. "Let's enforce the clause," she replied. "If they don't sign within 72 hours, we subpoena all of Brielle's phone records. We'll depose Reed and expose the forged messages. If she wants scorched earth, we'll bring the fire." The next morning, Brielle's parents called me. "She told us the truth," her father said. She admitted the affair and confessed that the messages were fake. Brielle was unraveling. Her mother spoke quietly. "We're sorry we doubted you. We'd still like to be part of your life, if you'll allow it." I was stunned. "I don't know what to say." "Just promise you'll heal," her father said, "and never take her back." 2 days later, Spencer emailed Meredith. They had accepted our counteroffer. Brielle would keep the apartment. I would retain my premarital investments and car, and I'd leave without any shared debt. There would be no alimony or compensation for therapy. Most importantly, Brielle had to sign a written admission of her extramarital affair for the sealed record. After the documents were signed, Brielle sent me one final message. "Hope you're happy. You destroyed my life just to protect your image." I didn't respond. She hadn't destroyed my life. She had set me free. But the final twist came from fate, not me. A week later, I learned Reed had ended things. He wasn't interested in commitment and didn't want to live with someone so unstable. He moved out of state and blocked Brielle everywhere. She spiraled online. Her stories became cryptic. She posted passive-aggressive quotes, complaints about toxic men, and long rants about emotional betrayal. I smiled when I scrolled past her newest post. Sometimes the universe removes people from your life for a reason. #healing, #new chapter, #leveling up. She had even misspelled leveling. It was the perfect final touch to her downfall. The settlement ink was barely dry when I signed a lease for my own apartment. It wasn't fancy, just a clean place with warm lights and plenty of quiet. I bought a used couch, a coffee maker, and a mismatched set of dishes. It wasn't much, but it belonged to me. There were no lies hanging in the air, and no fake tears on the floor. Only peace. I unpacked without making a sound, and that silence felt like victory. For the first time in months, I slept through the entire night. Things changed at work, too. After seeing through Spencer's cowardly smear campaign, my boss trusted me with more responsibility. "You handled all that pressure like a professional," she said. Brielle, meanwhile, kept falling apart. Her posts grew vague and bitter. Every photo of Reed disappeared. Then Brielle posted another quote. "You don't lose good men. You release them." Below it were the tags #healing, #reset, and #stillhurting. But nobody was buying her act anymore. One of our mutual friends even commented, "Didn't you leave him because you wanted to sleep with someone else?" The comment received more than 50 likes before Brielle deleted it. Kendra, now Brielle's former best friend, contacted me again. "She's losing friends every day. Everyone knows about the affair, the fake messages, all of it." I didn't answer. Not because I was angry. I simply didn't care anymore. A few weeks later, I ran into Paige at a bookstore. We had known each other in college, but until her recent message, we hadn't spoken in years. "You look better," she said. "I feel better." We got coffee, then dinner. We talked like old friends, though something between us felt different, gentle, careful, and honest. I didn't rush anything. I wasn't ready to fall in love again. Not yet. But I could handle a real connection. Eventually, Brielle saw our photos after someone tagged Paige. There were 2 smiling faces beneath one simple caption. "Starting again? Finally." A few hours later, Brielle posted a blurry sunset with the words, "Karma never misses." She was right. 3 months had passed since I walked away that night. 3 months since I left an unopened bottle of wine and a cabin reservation on a bed that once meant something. During that time, I watched the storm consume itself. Now only ashes remained, and Brielle had to sit among them alone. What I learned wasn't only about betrayal. It was about identity, about how far people will go to protect their own illusions. I also learned that healing isn't loud. It's steady. It lives in the routines you reclaim when nobody is watching. I still lived in the same modest apartment, but compared to the home I'd left, it felt like a palace. Every morning I brewed fresh coffee, opened the blinds, and enjoyed the silence. I joined a rock climbing gym. Learning to climb again felt symbolic, both physically and emotionally. Some days I slipped, stumbled, and came home bruised, but I kept climbing. I had cut off most of the people who chose Brielle's story over mine. Eventually, they began returning. Quiet apologies appeared in my inbox. Some invited me to lunch. I politely declined. They had made their decision when it mattered. They didn't get to come back once believing me became safe. Even Spencer had fallen silent, probably humiliated after his scheme collapsed. According to Meredith, Brielle's written confession prevented them from reopening the case without exposing their own misconduct. That silence was the sound of defeat. When Brielle finally had her biggest social media breakdown, I didn't hear about it from her. A coworker mentioned it during lunch. "Did you see Brielle's story last night? Total meltdown. She said people used her, destroyed her, and made her unable to trust anyone again." I quietly stirred my soup. I haven't looked. But later, in private, I checked. Of course I did. She had posted a long paragraph against a black background. "I gave someone everything, and they abandoned me. I hope you're happy. You killed the part of me that knew how to love." Then came the hashtags. Hashtag, never again. Hashtag, lessons learned. And hashtag, he was the villain. No names, no facts, only victimhood. Her victim act was still going strong. I didn't feel satisfied. Not exactly. It wasn't revenge either. What I felt was peace, something I hadn't known in years. 6 weeks later, the divorce became final. I arrived in a gray jacket, pressed shirt, and freshly shaved face. Brielle came late, wearing oversized sunglasses, with tension set around her mouth. She barely glanced at me. I didn't look at her at all. The judge signed the papers, and everything ended in less than 15 minutes. As I left the courthouse, I passed Brielle in the hallway. She stopped me. There was no anger in her eyes this time, no tears. Only a tired whisper. "Do you ever think we could have fixed it?" I paused, not because I wanted her back, but because some faint part of me still remembered loving her. "No," I said, gently. "You weren't trying to fix anything. You were testing how badly you could break us and still expect me to stay." Brielle lowered her eyes. I walked away. I didn't rush into a new relationship. I didn't make public announcements about healing or bury myself in rebound romances and late-night bars. Instead, I built the life I wanted, one piece at a time. I began mentoring younger employees at work. I adopted a rescue dog, a stubborn pit bull mix named Rosie who loved me from the moment we met. I also started writing again, something I had abandoned during my marriage. My essays were quiet reflections on betrayal, recovery, and truth. One was published anonymously on a popular blog. It went viral. Thousands of people sent messages, especially about one line. "Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's strength disguised as stillness." Months passed, and Brielle's name rarely entered my mind. Then one evening, while walking Rosie through a nearby park, I glanced through a cafe window and saw her sitting alone. She didn't notice me. Somehow she looked older, worn down. Her eyes were heavy, and the spark she once carried was gone. She looked like a woman pretending to be fine beneath harsh cafe lights. Brielle scrolled through her phone, gave something a bitter smile, then held her coffee with both hands, as if she needed it to keep herself together. I kept walking. I didn't stop or wave. I didn't need to. That quiet moment, passing unnoticed, felt more powerful than any revenge. She had spent months twisting the truth, attacking my name, and rewriting our marriage so she could play the victim. But I had walked through the fire and come out whole. Brielle would remain trapped inside the person she had chosen to become.